Let's move on to this matter now. The Portfolio Committee on Mineral Resources and Energy has wrapped up its oversight visit to the West Rand in Gauteng. This follows the gang rape of 8 women in West Village, Krugersdorp. That incident has since sparked violent unrest in that area. We've seen residents taking to the streets to apprehend illegal miners accused of committing crimes in the area. For more on what came out on the visit, we are joined now by the committee's chairperson, Sahlulele Luzipo. Chairperson, many thanks for your time this morning. I mean, it was about a 3-day oversight visit that you all conducted. What were some of the biggest things that came out of what you saw and experienced, but also through your engagement with community members?
Good morning to you and the viewers. Look, I think the first issue that we had to undertake was to work with the Portfolio Committee on Police, because most of the issues that we were attending to were related to criminal activities that are conducted by the illegal miners. One of the things that we've discovered, which is a bit worrying, was the fact that the area where this incident took place is under a mining right. It's not a disused or a derelict or an ownerless mine. It is a mine that is supposed to be operational because that company, which is Mohale Gold, still has a mining right in the area. The second thing that was worrying was the fact that police say it is not a place that is usually allowed for activities by members of the public, and therefore anyone who undertakes any activity in the area needs to inform the police. And they say they were never made aware that there was going to be an activity like shooting a film for a gospel song. And that is why we said then 2 things must happen. The first thing, from the Department of Mineral Resources, we want a detailed account on the activities with regards to the issuing of the mining right to the Mohale Gold, because we believe that there is a general principle in that must apply, the principle of use it or lose it. And that company has only been active up until 2018. Even in that time, they were not using a production that comes from the mine. They were using the production that comes from some of their branches in the area, as if it is their own production. The second thing was that we said that with the work that the police have done, I think we need to appreciate the work that has been done, but there is a need for a close working relationship between the community and the South African Police Service.
It's going to be very important, and I'm glad you bring up the issue of partnerships, because this is not a job for the Department of DMRE, for example. The Department of Police needs to be actively involved, but also the Department of Home Affairs, Chairperson. They have to be playing a bigger role here, just to increase oversight into who comes into South Africa and if they are documented or not, and if they are not, that they are dealt with adequately instead of being left to permeate the streets of different communities.
Look, you are correct. In fact, what we have said is that accountability must start, and it has to start with us as portfolio committees of Parliament. And therefore, a joint activities and joint programs are quite required, so that then we can make sure that the departments themselves don't work in silos. And that's the commitment that we have made between ourselves as Mineral Resources and Energy Portfolio Committee, as well as Police and Home Affairs. You will understand that predominantly the first question that will arise is that if those people are undocumented, non-South Africans, the question is that how did they make it or made it that they can overshadow the entire area with such activities, and they are known that they are undocumented. The second thing are the general criminal activities that are taking place. But most importantly, the police will not do any successful work if we don't do, if nothing is being done, even to deal with derelict and ownerless mine. That then means we need also to engage the Department of Finance. It has to, because with the current allocation that is given on the issue of closing down derelict and ownerless mine, the entity given a duty to do so gave a very chilling report that at the amount that they are given, it will take them 17 years to successfully, or to say that they've made a dent on the issue of the closure of the derelict and ownerless mine. And that's one area that we said we need now to look at to whether we don't need what we call a conditional grant, that if you say this is what is put aside, you don't just give the department just a budget, but the budget must be targeted, in particular on what we call risk areas. In the same way with police, you don't just give a budget to police without a specific targeted areas that are a priority to deal with in order to curb crime. And we think down the line, we will be able to find one another and be able to address some of these problems. And the more we close the derelict and ownerless mine, the more at least we shift the responsibility and the liability of police to deal with issues of crime with regards to illegal mining activities. Then they can focus on other forms of organized criminal activities.
Yes, and another important thing to consider here is that while companies must take responsibility for leaving mining sites dormant after they have done their business there, you've mentioned that some responsibility also lies on government in that a lot of the older dormant mines have now fallen into the hands of government and it has become their responsibility. But because of the lack of resources, inadequate work was done to make sure that they are kept from illegal miners. So I'm just wondering, as you deal with this and you get those resources from National Treasury, like you've indicated, in the meantime, how do we protect community members? Because it's not just the crime that you've lamented on, but also the fact that what happens underground has the potential to create sinkholes and really puts the safety of community members at risk.
Look, that's why we say that we need to, at a faster pace, to increase the allocation in terms of the closure of the derelict and ownerless mine. And yes, you are correct. The problem is that the law can't apply retrospectively. What we are sitting with now is a legacy matter, which therefore puts squarely to the state to take responsibility to close those mines. There was no, at least as we speak now, the condition amongst the conditions that you have for a mining right is that, or mining permit, is that you must then take responsibility for rehabilitation, and the state will take a certain percentage, so that in case you fail to close those mines, then the state will utilize that rehabilitation fund for the closure of those mines. And that is why we say there is a need now to look at doing what we call conditional grants that will specifically focus on the fight to close derelict and ownerless mines. The second thing, obviously, is that there is a need to deal with the issue. Like in this case, although we are quite critical about the role of the department, one issue that we have noticed is that the mining companies predominantly, they make applications for a mining right or a mining permit through the MPRDA, which is the law that deals with mineral and petroleum regulation. But when they are faced with financial challenges, one of the things they do, they use the Companies Act to go under business rescue practitioners. And once they are under business practitioners, they start at time not to be fully operational. And in that process, they become now open to illegal mining activities, especially in terms of the gold sector. But also linked to that, we think that from a finance regulation point of view, in terms of the illicit mining, there is a need to regulate, especially a commodity like gold. Because in as much as we may target Zamazamas with the criminal activities they are doing, the point is that there is a market, and we need to find a way to close the market where it is the final destination of the illegal activities on gold mining are taking place.
And that's a very interesting point that you pick up on there, Chairperson, because it brings us to wonder if these are major international syndicates that are operating these illegal mining operations. And so the task ahead when it comes to plugging these holes that have been created in the illegal mining space is going to be quite the tough one.
Most definitely. But also when you look at what the two entities, the Council for Geoscience and Mintech. They were saying that currently we are sitting with 6,000 plus derelict and ownerless mines that needs to be closed. And of that, 600 are almost in the Gauteng area. That tells you that there is still a huge task to be performed. But also linked to that is the fact that they may even calculate areas where still illegal activities are taking place. In this sense, when you put a slab and close the shaft, all what that sends to the illegal miners is that it means there is a shaft there. So they will dig alongside the slab and then be able to find and go down, find the shaft. So in as much as you may say you have closed, you may have then created more influx, because they will then understand that the area where you have closed, it means there is an opening, and they then dig and go beneath the slab, and they will use the tunnels or the shaft to go down that illegal activity. So I don't think we are alarmist, but the truth is, when we say that this is a very serious matter, it is a threat to national security, and I think everything and every effort possible has to be done. And even if it means we consider the utilization of the National Defence Force in certain aspects, because you're also dealing with individuals that are carrying high caliber rifles. You are dealing with people that are carrying material, bombs and other explosives that you will find that they can only be used in the army, or they are used in the mines when they do blasting. And therefore, it actually means you need a multidisciplinary activity, but in a fast but very effective way.
We've run out of time, but I just have to clarify with you there. When you speak about bringing in the SANDF at some stage, has that conversation started to happen? Are you talking to various stakeholders to perhaps consider that as an option for communities like Krugersdorp?
Look, for now, unfortunately, it doesn't fall on our mandate. But I think when we have met with the three departments, we will then be able to say what role do we think each can play. For an example, like I made around finance, the treasury, around the South African National Defence Force. Remember, the South African National Defence Force has got multidisciplinary activities. When there was a challenge of water contamination or water challenges, for an example, around Gauteng, they were brought in to deal with maintenance issues with regards to that. So we can look at what skills or assistance we can get, including from the National Defence Force. But for now, it's just still an idea that we think we will throw to the committees. Based on that, we'll then say that this is how we think we can fast-track the process to address this thing, because it is putting a stress into our own communities.
Yeah, and you did say it is a threat to national security and must be dealt with the utmost urgency. Thank you very much for giving us some time this morning. That is Mr. Sahlulele Luzipo, who's the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Mineral Resources and Energy.